Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be doing a twist and chat, okay? Because I need to do my hair. And then it's been like so long since I have followed up with people who had questions regarding this honeymoon vacation we went on almost a year ago, okay? So as I get right for the beginning of the week, we're gonna tackle this hair today, okay? So I'm actually doing something simple today with my hair, just like a regular twist out, but I'm gonna do the twist small enough so that I can actually wear them a couple of days because I'm about that get up and go life, okay? But let's start off with like travel. So traveling to Dubai was a long trip, okay? So if you are planning a vacation to Dubai and you're gonna be leaving from North Carolina or anywhere close to that, you can expect almost a full day of travel. It actually took us 18 hours to get to Dubai. And if you didn't know, Stefan and I are actually vegan, so we had to pack a lot of nourishing snacks on our journey, okay? So I highly recommend that if you are going to Dubai, that you actually try to arrive like in the evening time in Dubai. So try to arrive in the evening so that you have the opportunity to actually get like a good night's rest and, you know, have dinner before that. But at least you can feel at least somewhat rested up before you actually start all of the fun activities, because it is a very long flight in my opinion. So when we actually went to Dubai, it was actually in January, and going in January, the temperature over there is kind of like 70s-ish. Some days were a little hotter than others, so a lot of our outfits were kind of like layered. So basically like wearing like a short sleeve shirt and some bottoms, but also having like a jacket, cardigan, hoodie, whatever to go on top, because in the mornings it may start out like a little chilly, midday you might be hot, and then at the end of the day you actually might be cold, okay? So that is exactly what we did. So a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, including myself, have like a lot of questions regarding attire, okay? So like, what can you wear? What can you not wear? So in a nutshell, you can almost wear anything as long as it is not being disrespectful to the environment that you are in. So let's just say that in Dubai, a lot of people like to tour the mosque in Dubai. It does not make sense to go to a religious place with nothing on, okay, as I shall say. So you want your attire to fit exactly what you're doing for that particular day. So like, we saw people that may have wore cleavage, who have wore like short skirts. I didn't wear shorts, but Stefan wore like shorts that were like, you know, knee length, and not an issue at all. It is not as extreme as some people may make it, but make your attire match what you're doing. Like, you wouldn't go to church with a bathing suit on, okay? Even though they say come as you are, okay? And you can most definitely do that. But realistically, I have not seen people do that. And I will like to say that in Dubai, there are like a lot of beaches, a lot of pools and things like that that are like super popular if you like Google on YouTube. We did not do a whole lot of water adventures. I'm trying to think, except for like getting on the boat, but we didn't like physically get into any bodies of water. We did bring bathing suits, but honestly, I'm not gonna lie, after the pet itinerary we had, whenever we had like an opening, it was like, let's go get a nap so that we can feel energized for what's next, because jet lag is real, okay? But yes, you can definitely wear bathing suits. When I say there are like a lot of water adventures, water parks, pools and things like that, I mean, people wear bathing suits there, okay? And it's just not as extreme as a lot of people would make it, okay? But most definitely you don't want to be walking around with a bathing suit as you're like exploring the mall or anything like that, because people will look at you crazy, okay? But like I said, if you're going to like some type of party, club or whatever, like having cleavage and things like that is fine, but you wouldn't want to wear those types of things to a religious building, mosque or anything like that, because that could be viewed as being disrespectful, and you just want to approach people's culture as if you would want people to approach your culture, okay? So reciprocity, okay? I hope that made sense. And I hope I answered that question, because a lot of people ask that, and no crazy things were going on with that. And like I said, people just dress normal, like how people dress here. People dress the same way over there, okay? But just a whole lot richer, okay? We saw like a lot of expensive vehicles and things like that. So, I mean, just to provide some historical context, okay? So we went to the Dubai frame, and the Dubai frame, yep, it is the Dubai frame. The Dubai frame would give you insight into old Dubai and new Dubai, okay? So as you go into the frame, as you get to the top, on one side of the frame, you can look out and you can see New Dubai. New Dubai is basically where the Dubai Mall, Burj Khalifa, all of the stuff that people come to see when they visit Dubai is typically in New Dubai, okay? However, Old Dubai is what they call it, and that part of town is not as affluent as New Dubai, okay? So you will see, just like any other big city or town that you may visit, you may see some impoverished communities and things like that, and that's typically normal, okay? When you go to big cities, like, yes, a lot of the cities may look lavish in certain areas, but if you take a look on the other side, there are some people there that are still experiencing hardships and challenges and things like that. And that is actually something that's very important to open your mind to and open your eyes to when you are visiting new countries, new cities, is that everybody there is not living the lifestyle that you think that they may be living. And for some people, this is not, they live there, so it's not a tourist site for them, okay? So, and I will say Dubai has like a lot of, I guess I will say, how do I want to say this, okay? A lot of you actually don't know this, but I have a background in social work. So sometimes my thought process comes from a social work perspective, okay? So, they have a lot of harsh laws in regards to people looking for support while people are traveling, okay? So sometimes like people there, and this is something Stefan and I actually learned, us Googling and just diving into some of Dubai's history, is that when we were there, we did have someone ask us for, I don't think it was actually money, I want to say it might have been food or something like that, and we could tell that the way the approach, it was almost coming from like a more timid perspective. So of course we started Googling, and they have like a lot of harsh laws for people doing that. I will say, because I did get this question as well, was like, how are Black people viewed there, okay? Normally, I feel like, okay? We did not experience, to our knowledge, okay? Because you know sometimes things slip and we may not catch them. But to our knowledge, we did not experience any discrimination or racism. If anything, okay? People treated us like we were always thinking of the right words to say, because this is not a voiceover. People treated us as if they may have thought that we were rich, okay? And I think it is just the American scent on people, okay? And we really wanted to tell these people like, hey, it's okay, we regular degler, okay? We regular people over here, okay? And what I mean by that is some of those things that came up when we got to the airport, okay? Like, meaning we had just arrived in Dubai, okay? We actually Came out, there's always like lots of taxis in popular like tourist places anyway. So there were plenty of taxis, okay? There were, interestingly enough, a lot of Ubers that are located in Dubai are actually like white Lexuses, which I find very interesting. Like, it's super crazy. So some of those were there, and then I believe they had some taxi vans and some taxi cars that were typical cars that you may see here in North Carolina, okay? And when we were trying to get a taxi, trying to get to the hotel, they put us in a Tesla, okay? The people at the airport. They bypassed us past all of these regular taxis that we would have preferred to ride in, and they put us in a Tesla, okay? So the Tesla was our taxi. And Stefan and I have actually never even rode in a Tesla before, okay? So we were just like, okay, do these people think we like are like famous people? Do they think that we are rich? I don't know. But this same treatment like continued throughout our Dubai vacation, okay? Even at the hotel, the way that people, Stefan is of like taller stature, okay? So I don't know if he fell into the athlete stereotype, have no idea. But the way that people viewed us, it was as if that they perceived that we were just like really, really wealthy people. And I think it just boils down to the American scent that was on us. Anytime you go to different places to travel, it is always funny that people can just look at you and tell like your nationality. Like, people just knew that we were American. So that was pretty interesting. So we didn't experience any racism or discrimination. You might say that we probably experienced just a little bit of privilege, if I would be honest with you, based off of that and our interactions while we were in Dubai, which was very strange and weird to us. I will say that when we got on the airport to go back home, okay, let me back up first, okay? So we were in Dubai for a few days, and after a few days, we realized that the air quality, something had to be in the air quality, okay? So knowing us, okay, we had to pull out the good Google again, and was like, what is it? Like, what is the air quality in Dubai? Is it good? Is it bad? Whatever. Honey, we found out that Dubai has one of the most not so great air qualities. And if you didn't know, I have asthma, okay? So by this point in time, I had been taking these cough drops. They call them herbs or something else in Dubai, but basically they're cough drops, okay? We had went to a local pharmacy just to get cough drops while we were there because it was bad, okay? My asthma was trying to act up. And as we had been there for a few days, we Googled and we were like, no wonder we hacking and trying to breathe, right? Because, I mean, when you think about it, so many cars there, probably a lot of pollution because of like so many chemicals like coming from cars and things like that, and also just being a popular tourist site. So that was one thing. So when we got on the plane to go back home, Stefan does not really get sick, okay? But he had a lot of sniffling and a little coughing going on, okay? And he had on a mask, okay? Mind you now, me and Stefan both wore a mask the entire 18-hour flight there and on the way back, okay? And all of a sudden, the plane hadn't even took off yet, okay? We on the plane, getting ready to do this long stretch, because by the way, we had a layover in Canada to and fro, okay? So to and from, we had a layover in Canada. So the stretch from Canada to Dubai and from Dubai to Canada was our longest stretch, okay? Because from Canada to RDU Airport here in North Carolina is actually like an hour and a half or something like that. Not long at all, like something like that. A flight attendant approaches Stefan and was like, we're getting like complaints because of, I guess, like he was having cold symptoms. Okay, I can't remember what she was saying. I just know it was really not pleasant, I shall say. Okay, and the crazy thing about it is that he was like low-key sniffling. Okay, there were people in the back of the plane that were like, I mean, like you could hear it, like you could hear the phlegm, everything else in the back of their throat, the mucus, the membranes, almost all of it. Okay, so at that point in time, no, on the way back, I did feel like, okay, now are we being treated differently? Because it's a whole lot of other people on this plane that got me anxious. Okay, they have me anxious because of all the hacking they're doing. But it was a person, I don't know if it was a person sitting near us that had made the complaint. I have no idea. But all I know is we didn't think we were sick. But them other people on the plane, something wasn't right, okay? Somebody was not well on that plane, okay? And that's what we do know, okay? So that was very interesting, okay? So, very interesting. So, I had got that question, like, how were we treated as, you know, African American while over there, and really didn't have any negative experiences with that. The only thing was, on that plane ride back, I don't know who put in the message that they felt like Stephon was sick, but as tired as I was, okay, I was not trying to have it. I'm like, ma'am, do you not see all these other people up here hacking and coughing, and all he doing is wiping his nose? And you all probably have not met Stephon in person, probably not myself either, but he's the most like mellow and calm person that you know. Takes a lot to get him upset. But me on the other hand, ma'am, I need you to go chat back there with them people that don't got a mask on, that are clearly hacking. That's who I need you to go check on, okay? Because as for me and mine, we gonna wear a mask anyway, sick or not, on this 18-hour flight, okay? So, I hope that answers that person's question, because that was interesting, okay? Okay, so the back is done. The parts are not super straight, but that is fine, okay? Because I can throw these twists up in a little loose ponytail or bun and we'll be good to go. But now on to the front, okay? Things get super quick when you get to the front because you can see, okay? But moving on to next questions. So, filming, video recording, all of that good stuff. Good thing, Stephon and I did not have any bad experiences with filming or recording. I would just say, and this is something that I typically do like here anyway, like being in the US and being in North Carolina, is that when you are filming, just ensuring that you are not intentionally filming other people, if that makes sense. So I am always careful, like if I film in a store or even around some of my family members who are under 18, or some family members where I know they don't like being on camera, I will never post against anybody's will, and I do not post children without their parents' permission. So if you want to film, I don't think we had any trouble in any place that we went to with filming at all. So great experience with that, and I have quite a few vlogs up from our Dubai trip as well. And as you all probably can see, we actually got like a lot of footage of all of the places that we went to. So we never had anybody like, hey, you can't film this or you can't film that. I would just assume that places that you probably can't film may be in some mosques you may not be able to film in. And then also, like if you're going to any special events like comedy shows or concerts, of course, you typically cannot film in those environments. But other than that, you are good to go when it comes to filming, posting content, whatever you would like to do with your footage. Another question that came up was about currency, okay? So yes, they use dirhams in Dubai, and we converted some currency before we actually went, okay? Typically, and I will say this just from my experiences with, you know, going to Dubai, but also have gone to Paris and Amsterdam, it is typically always easier to convert your currency before you actually leave. And most of the time it's actually cheaper too, okay? So any of those places in the airports or anything like that, sometimes they typically charge like a higher fee to exchange your currency because you're basically paying for convenience, if that makes sense. So try to change your currency before you go, okay? I know some people have love-hate relationships with credit cards. I do not think credit cards are bad. I think sometimes the way people use them are bad. You see where I'm going at? It's not the credit card that's bad. Sometimes we do not have the information that we need to appropriately use credit cards to not get into financial trouble, okay? I have found it to be safer to use credit cards while traveling, okay? And that is because just in my overall experience, typically when you're using a credit card and there's like a charge that you don't recognize, it's typically easier to cancel that transaction versus trying to do it on a debit card, okay? So for safety reasons, we use credit cards like in the airport, and with certain restaurants, we will use credit cards, okay? You are going to want to use your cash for, let's just say you run into like a food truck or something like that. Food trucks are typically everywhere these days, right? It may be easier to use your cash at a place like that. Now, if you're going to a well-renowned museum, it is probably going to be easier to use your card at a museum because it is easy to like verify that transaction versus going to like a gold souk, okay? Those are like very, very popular in Dubai. Using cash may be easier in those environments, okay? It may even be safer, okay? We went to one gold souk and we kind of talked about it. Well, I talked about it in a video, and it was like, you know how you go to the mall, right? And then you have people like in the middle of the mall, and then they see you walking by and they like, I got to sell her today. That was our experience at the gold souk, and it did not make us feel comfortable at all. So in those environments, I would prefer to use cash and not a credit card, okay? That's just our personal preference, and that's just how we navigated that while in Dubai. So when deciding how much cash we wanted to bring, we did basically estimates. I do not have those numbers in front of me, but we did estimates of how much we felt like we would spend on food. And what was the other thing? Food, I think. Food and like transportation, okay? But let me tell you, this day and time, you really don't need cash for transportation, because if you're using like Lyft or Uber, Lyft did not exist in Dubai, which we were really shocked about. We sometimes prefer Lyft over Uber. They only had Uber, so we use Uber. And sometimes we prefer Lyft because with our credit cards, you get extra points, okay? You don't leave points on the table if it's a purchase you're already going to spend money on in the first place, okay? We're probably gonna have to talk about this in another video because I just know credit cards are so controversial. But anywho, they didn't have Lyft, they only had Uber. When you're ordering an Uber or you're purchasing any type of ride share, you're typically using the card that's in the app anyway. So you don't necessarily need a whole lot of cash for that unless you just find yourself in a sticky situation and you're like, I just need to get in this taxi as soon as possible. And typically with taxis, they prefer their cash, okay? So that is what I would keep in mind. So possibly having cash for food, but also some souvenirs that you may want, and having like emergency taxi cab cash on hand, okay? And I'm gonna try to make sure I link them in here. So me and Stefan, what we did was we made sure like we both had our own cash, because you just never know what could happen. And I'll make sure I link our safety, can't think of the word, but basically where we hold like our cash, passports, all of those other kind of things, okay? Because whenever you travel to countries that you have never been before, okay, and you are not that familiar with, people can smell the tourism on you and you look like a tourist, okay? Like if I got my camera out every single where I go, these people are gonna know I'm a tourist, okay? They're like, this girl ain't never been here before. Okay, every time I turn around, she's snapping pictures and taking videos, which is true and accurate. I had never been there before. So please keep that in mind as you're traveling. There will be times where you can use your credit card and it may be deemed safe to do so, but there are going to be some situations where you would prefer to have cash on hand and you wouldn't want to swipe your credit card for those things. Just to add to that, a lot of banks have gotten more progressive with this, but making sure that before you go out of town that you make sure you call your banks, let them know that you're going out of town, because what you don't want to do, okay, is you get there and they like, somebody is swiping your credit card and they just cancel your whole credit card. You wouldn't want that to happen, okay? So just make sure you notify your banks of travel. I know that there are some banks nowadays that you can actually update that straight in the app on your phone so that you don't even have to call, okay? But the way me and my anxiety work, okay, I pick up that phone. I want to speak to you on the phone and I want to let you know, and I want to see that email verification come through immediately when we get off the phone, okay? So those are just some helpful tips to keep in mind when it comes to money safety. Because yes, there's a lot of, contingency plans that you can have in place when you're traveling for safety reasons. But some of those contingency plans, you always need some type of cash on hand. It's just like even living here, right? Wherever you're from, being at home, there are some times where you're like, yes, I use my credit cards all the time, but I still need a little cash on my hand, because you just never know when you may need some cash. What I did want to discuss before wrapping up the video is maximizing your time, okay? Going to Dubai was a honeymoon trip for us, and it was probably the biggest vacation we had ever been on together. And we knew we wanted to maximize our time because we knew that it would probably be a while before we would choose to go to Dubai again, okay? We may go to somewhere else, but we knew it would be a while before we would pay a visit to Dubai again, okay? So as you are planning for a trip to Dubai or any other trip for that matter, I am a firm believer that you should always make an itinerary, okay? And that way, when you get there, it's not like, oh, what do y'all want to do today? You ever been on a trip with many people and you're trying to figure out what you want to do for that particular day, and thinking about what you want to do turned into the whole day? Like, you don't want that to happen, because it's a pretty big deal going out of the country and going to a place that is so far away. And you don't want to waste your time doing things that you actually really could care less about. And you definitely don't want to spend time thinking about what you want to do, okay? And just to add on to that, as we talk about currency and planning financially for a trip like this, is when you do the itinerary, you can already be doing your research on, okay, how much does it cost to do this particular thing? Like, how much money are we going to need to do this and do that, right? And just to add to that, thinking about budgeting and all of that good stuff, and not wanting to have so much cash on hand, just wanting to know exactly what are you going to be spending money on while you're there. When you go ahead and plan for the trip, so me and Stefan knew for a fact we wanted to do Dinner in the Sky. We knew for a fact we wanted to do the Museum of the Future. We knew we wanted to go see the Burj Khalifa. We knew we wanted to do a Dubai fountain ride, right? We knew we wanted to do these things, and we could go online while we were here in the US and in North Carolina and actually go ahead and pay for those things before we even got to Dubai, okay? Certain things like a safari tour or a yacht tour, okay? They gave us a little bit of anxiety, okay? Because those places were on, was it TripAdvisor or like something else, okay? And what you know about these places is like TripAdvisor is kind of like a third party place that like helps sell tickets, kind of like Ticketmaster almost, I think. I hope you all get what I'm saying. So like purchasing a ticket to Museum of the Future, we knew we were paying money to the Museum of the Future because it was the official website, versus going to like TripAdvisor, like you're paying the money, but they're paying the money to like another company. So they're like a liaison to the place, okay? We did not feel comfortable paying for those tickets ahead of time. We wanted to wait until we got to Dubai so that we could go to, I think it's Concierge, to basically get their recommendations on what would be the best safari tour for us to go on, because we saw quite a few on TripAdvisor. And then we also wanted to know what was the best yacht tour to go on, because we knew we wanted to do a yacht tour around Dubai so that we could literally just sit and sightsee. And that has its pros and cons, okay? And I'm gonna tell you why. So when we got there, we knew that was something that we needed to get squared away on the first day of arrival. Like we needed to figure out how we could pay for these two things that we wanted to do that we hadn't paid for in advance. And the only time we had to do those things were like on particular days, because we left openings for that. So we knew that the desert for safari would take a full day, because that's basically what everybody said online. And we knew we could do a yacht tour in the morning or we could do it in the evening. So when we got there, the desert safari tour that included the camel ride was already sold out. So we couldn't do the camel ride because we waited too late. It was sold out already. However, we found one where we could still do everything else, like the buggying, like in the desert, all of that good stuff. But the one thing we felt like we missed out on was being able to do the camel ride, which is like, I'm sure on Stefan's list of things to do whenever we travel again. We definitely have to do like some camel riding or some horse riding or something, okay? So that wasn't included because it was already sold out. And with the yacht tour, we were kind of fine with that because that was not something that was of limited availability, because yacht tours pretty much go on several times a day, versus the desert safari, one ticket is pretty much the whole day event, okay? Starting from like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you probably won't get back to your hotel until 11 o'clock p.m. So you didn't have many options for that because it takes a whole day. So those are some of the limitations with that you definitely want to keep in mind when purchasing things, okay? And hindsight being 2020, and I'm giving this as a recommendation because you all could technically do the same, is that when you know there's something that you actually want to do, maybe go ahead and call the hotel that you plan to stay at and asking them if they could go ahead and give you recommendations for some of those activities or excursions, so that you don't have to wait to the last minute to decide. And that way, that's one less stressor. Like when we got to Dinner in the Sky, when we got to Museum of the Future, we already had our tickets on our phones, and we also printed them off just in case we were having technology issues. So at that point, you didn't even have to worry about getting out cash or a credit card because you had already paid for it prior to going. And that's also another safety measure, so that when you're getting to these places, you're not digging in your purse or your money pouch trying to find money and then the money falls out or your passport falls. Like, you're being proactive with being safe in unfamiliar territory. Alrighty, so finally finished my twist, and I believe I got through everybody's questions that I have seen on social media or just by word of mouth regarding our trip to Dubai. If you have any other questions that just came up for you, just make sure you drop them below. And I think I do a pretty good job of responding to almost every single comment, so I will definitely get back to you. And stay tuned to see how this twist out fiasco go for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, okay? Because we just try to get through the week around here, all right? As always, I hope you all enjoyed the video and found it useful, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. See ya!